Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gina Terusio. We are here. My friend Sandra Kelly and I are here for this Public Works Finance Committee meeting. It is January 10th. To our left is the no longer Deputy City Supervisor, Bill Belknap. And our first item, well, we can't, can we?
I think we can.
Yes, we can.
All right,
I think I
selection of
can
committee
move-
chair and vice chair.
Sure, I think I can move that you're the chair since I'm not on your committee.
Okay, I'll go for that.
And I would move that we put Haley Lewis as vice chair.
That sounds good to me. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Wow. Okay, the second item is the approval of the Public Works Finance Committee, December 13, 2021 minutes.
I skimmed them. To be honest, I didn't give them a hardcore look, but I skimmed them and it looked good.
Well, they looked good to me. So I think we're good. All right, next is the disbursement report for December of 21.
Yes.
Miss Sarah Banks.
All right. So looking at the accounts payable report for month ending December 31st, 2021, total expenditures came to $2,615,347.44. Our largest expenditure was payroll that came in at $1,622,953. And I actually do not have any major expenditures to report.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, well, given that I am fine with approving them if you are.
I am.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Sarah again. Our next item is the first quarter financial report, October 21 through December 31 of 2021.
Yes. So when we're looking at first quarter, if you go down the percentage budget to actual, you should see most things under 25% unless it was a one-time transfer. We do have some 100% in there. Otherwise, everything is either around 20 or below. There are a few anomalies that I wanted to point out. If you look at stormwater capital, you're going to see that that percentage is 562.63%. That's not a typo. That actually is because of the ARPA funds. So at fiscal year end, if you'll remember, we had the meeting. And so once we were finishing the financials, we had to go ahead and transfer that revenue in. So stormwater capital is higher. You'll also notice fleet capital is at, I believe, about 46%. And that's because of the funds that we move in. So any of those ARPA funds we moved around, that's where the percentage increases. Our total quarterlies came in revenues at 15.41% and expenditures at 12.81. So since we're just getting going, that should be looking right on track.
Great. Excellent. Now on these two last or the disbursement report, that was an okay to go ahead and electronically sign, or do we have to sign this time?
Yeah, we're still doing, I think from here on out,
It's
electronic.
always going to be, okay,
Yep.
good. All right, and then we just accept that report from you?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you, Sarah. I think do you have more for us, or are you off the hook?
I don't have more, but I want to make sure. So moving forward, we probably need to be changing these reports, taking Ann off and putting Haley on, correct?
Yes, and
Maureen, I think.
is also
All
on
right.
here.
So I'll make those changes, resend this out for the electronic signatures, and we should be good to go.
Excellent.
I
Okay.
probably should have asked this last year. If someone subs in, like, do I need to sign this or can it just be the table?
It could be the table, or we could do actually, I think, whatever you guys want on
I don't
that.
care. I just didn't want to mess you up in any way.
Yeah, no.
I think it's a good record of who was actually here.
Yeah, and so
So,
we
okay,
could change
let's make
those
sure we-
electronic signatures out each time. I'll just make sure to inform Lori of
Okay.
who's doing what, and we'll have them signed correctly.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
actually I'll put that on there.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate that, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next item is Transportation Alternatives Program, or the TAP grant, application number 1. Nate Sewer, how are you, sir? And Elisa Anderson, hello.
I am well. Let's see if I can get this. It is AV mute, right? Yeah.
Don't look
Sure.
at me and ask that question, Nate Sewer.
I-
Yeah, they're super high today. Bang your knees on the table.
Hello, I'm Nate Sir, and I'm here supporting Elisa Anderson from the Community Development Department. So we're going to talk about even though we're here in 2022, we're going to talk about the 2021 Transportation Alternatives Programs, the program applications that are due this month. So I have prepared a little bit more of a program background in anticipation for some of the new council members, but that didn't happen this time, so you get to hear it anyway.
That's fine.
I appreciate
That's
it.
fine.
And then we dive into the two proposed application locations. So this should be a pretty simple presentation. A little bit of the background. The Transportation Alternatives Program, as the name suggests, is designed for non-motorized users. So this essentially restricts the eligible projects to largely the repair of trail facilities, the creation of trail facilities, and the creation and repair of ADA accessible pedestrian routes. So we've got a pretty narrow scope on this application, and that's kind of what led us to the two sites that you'll see. This is funding that is available every 2 years, and our local district is administered by the Local Highway Technical Advisory Council, LTAC. So each of these grants has a maximum funding of $500,000 and a standard federal 7.34% match requirement. Our applications for this round are due January 20, so we've got about 10 days more. We're getting right up on the deadline here. And when we had our annual meeting with LTAC, they advised us to submit 2 applications this year because of anticipated increased funding due to the pandemic funding. The first site includes, so both of the sites are on Mountain View Road. This site is from F Street to Slonaker Drive. And if you're not familiar with Slonaker, that is the north extension of the, will you remind me what the name of that development is?
Woodbury?
Blackwood Edition.
Thank you.
Yes.
The Blackwood Edition subdivision. And so we'll continue the pathway to the north there. The proposed work includes the west side of the road. We'd be installing bike lane, curb, gutter, stormwater facilities, green strip, and sidewalk. So there'd also be some enhanced illumination there at each of the intersections and the installation of a guardrail at the curve in the road there where the sledding hill is. So this particular project would close the largest, and I did put an asterisk on that because it will be the largest once we install the Mountain View project from 6th Street to Joseph. So right now, the largest gap is from Joseph to White. Once we get that project done this spring or this year, we will, this will be the largest gap. So we'll be working with Avista to improve the illumination system, as I mentioned. And this pathway is going to open up Morgan's Orchard Park, the Herc, the Aquatic Center, and it will greatly improve pedestrian access in areas that have a lot of existing, the charter schools, St. Mary's Elementary and middle schools. So a lot of young pedestrians, school-age pedestrians. For this project, we're anticipating the estimation for the project cost is not to exceed $865,000. So with the $500,000 grant request, we would have $365,000 being expended from the roadway improvements capital accumulation budget. And I will we'll go through some visuals, and then I'll pause before we move on to the next site with the next agenda item. So as you can see here, we discussed, so this begins at F. Oh, that's changed.
Surprise.
Get a new one every time.
Very cool. So we have the F Street intersection here. We'd be proposing to connect to the existing pathway, but to replace that pedestrian ramp. So we bring it up to current standards. And then as we move to the north, this would just continue with, you can see here, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Just continuing to the north, we'd be installing illumination improvements at the intersection, at each intersection, to ensure we have a safe corridor there for crossings. And then it will continue to the north and connect into the existing infrastructure here. So any questions on that specific project?
And just to kind of follow up on that, I think we've been working for years to be able to get Mountain View finished from Highway 8 to the end of the park. And we've attempted to get grants that would complete that along with the existing funding. But so we've started now to chip away at it in smaller pieces. And so That's what you see before you today. It's,
Excellent.
trying to get Mountain View closed out with all the pedestrian facilities that we need to get to the parks and the schools and everything.
As the council may recall, the developer of the Woodbury subdivision was required to participate on improvements on the east side, but that left the west frontage unimproved on Mountain View. So this would pick up that west side.
It's going to look awesome through there.
And is this planned for summer if it comes through? I missed the timeline part.
I apologize. I didn't include the timeline. So these would be for 23 or 24
Okay.
construction.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
just out of curiosity, how long, and I know you don't know for sure, but anticipated to get that done? Like, we have traffic issues in the summer around that area. It's pretty congested there.
It's hard to say without having any further design at this
Sure.
level of scoping. I just couldn't say how long. the
Not that it
project-
matters. I was just curious.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
certainly can be completed in one construction season in
Yeah.
the summer.
Absolutely.
It's just a road shoulder improvements with curbing and sidewalk installation and minor widening. So should have somewhat minimal impacts on traffic. I don't think you'd be looking at full closures for that kind of work, and certainly could be completed in a single construction season.
Great.
You said there was some lighting updates too?
Yeah, so we'll be working with Avista. We're not doing the full decorative lighting, but we would be working to make sure there's LED lighting on each of the poles at each of the intersections. And
Excellent.
if there isn't a pole, we'll be installing one. So
We'll make sure we had adequate lighting at that 90-degree corner of Mountain View as well.
Yes, good,
Yeah.
good. Well,
Great.
what do you
That's-
think?
I'm
Did you
a
get
big fan
chance
of it.
to read through?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions at all?
No, this is what I get. I heard I'm vice chair since I showed up late. So hi, good to see you. I haven't yet perfected my commute time from Pullman here. So no questions. It needs it. My parents are in that neighborhood. I grew up walking that stretch. And especially when the time changes and it's dark
Yeah.
at 4 p.m. walking home from volleyball practice, it is much needed there. And I also think it'll help. I like the four-way stop a lot since we made that change. So
Yeah.
happy to see it happen.
Well, I
Do we
say
need to make
that
a motion on that?
It says we authorize the staff. Do we need to approve that?
Yes.
Is that,
please.
okay?
Yep.
So I'm hearing consensus,
Yeah.
right?
Indeed.
Okay. Go ahead. We're happy you're doing it. Thank you.
thank you.
And I'm going to say, you're going to stay right where you are here for the next item too. Again, the TAP grant program application number 2.
Yep. And so we'll just continue on with this slide sheet. So this project proposes taking up from where this summer's Mountain View project will end at the south side of Joseph Street and continue all the way through to the Paradise Path crossing at Heron's Hideout. So this is a very similar project, minor road widening, bicycle lane, curb gutter, green strip, and sidewalk. In addition, we'd be proposing the installation of a pedestrian warning beacon at the crossing of Paradise Path there to ensure that we have, so this would be just north of the bridge before you get to White Avenue.
Okay. Okay.
And so that would cross kind of into the fairgrounds access road there.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So this would
Yeah.
essentially, with these two grants and the Mountain View project, the 6th to Joseph project, this would close a gap from the north side of the road all the way through White Avenue. It would be a fantastic, about a 1.2 mile corridor. Very excited about these. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then for this one, similar project cost,
Mhm.
845,000, and the additional funding would be expended from the roadway improvements capital accumulation. This is also, we will also be requesting a fiscal year 24 construction window. There's a little bit of variation that might happen. So either of these projects could get awarded in either 23 or 24. And that depends largely on what the funding sources look like for the LTAC. We'll go into some visuals here. All right. So you can see, wrong one. You can see here, this would be proposing initially the 6th to Joseph project proposes that these curbs essentially taper back to the existing width. What we would propose to do is, if you can see the red lines here, we would propose to just continue them at their current width and establish a full roadway cross section that way. Continuing south, we'd just continue with pedestrian improvements. There'd be a lot of necessary stormwater improvements to accommodate for this, but largely this is a pedestrian project here. And then you get to the very south where you see we would extend to match the bridge, to connect to the bridge, but we would be installing this mid-block crossing for the Paradise Path pedestrian traffic.
I think that's huge.
I do too.
Very, very excited about this. And then we'll go to questions, please.
You go.
Did you mention the pathway or sidewalk through the fairgrounds?
I apologize, I did not, and I must not have. I must be missing a slide. So if you can see here, this connection would extend on the south side of the fairgrounds access all the way through to where the fair entrance off of White
Oh, good.
goes. So this would connect you to the pathway that has already been installed at White Avenue and connects to the underpass there.
So it parallels Fire Station 2.
Oh, that's
And,
excellent.
you know, there's so much traffic
Yeah.
sidewalk
on
on that
White
stretch right
by
now,
the
right?
Bush gas station
Mhm.
and all
Mhm.
of that. And so this will be a shorter route, a safer route to connect with existing infrastructure.
Will you go back
Probably.
to one more,
There you
please? So on it, the little bit of transportation knowledge that I have is going to all be spent right here.
Excellent.
Is that not a traffic slowing moment right there where you both pull those roads together to slow things down? A traffic calming
It could
measure?
It could be a traffic calming. In this case, it isn't. The purpose isn't for traffic calming. It's
Okay.
just to return to the roadway width. So
Okay.
yes,
All right. So
but
instead, we're
anytime you
not
narrow a road, you do create some
calm
slowing.
things down.
Yeah.
So we just opted not to return to the roadway width?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you, and I don't know how to switch this, but about where the mouse is, so you could see, we'll just cut this off, and we'll work with the Mount 6th to Joseph project to see if there's any modifications that they can do that represent cost savings.
Okay.
But yeah, we would just eliminate the portion that narrows.
Okay. That's awesome.
And also with doing this on Lemhi, between Joseph and Lemhi, that seems to be an area that like floods too,
Yeah.
and it disrupts the curb base. So getting the sidewalk and the pedestrian improvements there will, I think, keep that from erupting and in the drainage and different things. We've had the last 2 floods, we've had claims for
Mhm.
that area. So that will help us with that also.
Great.
Just as a follow-up also, to bring you up to date and remind everyone, we have a current TAP grant that is the Highway 8 and Highway 95 underpass
Mhm.
by Identity and Pizza Hut
Mhm.
that will go into design this year
Great.
Yay.
and then construction next year, correct? And so the TAPs kind of run 2 years apart, and that's why you see this funding out 2 years from where we are, is because, you know, we've got a current project under
Yep.
design at this time.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Lisa.
So
Was
would the
No, go ahead.
so would the pedestrian light system be the same as what's a little further down on the? Would it be the same system that we use? Is it
Like the
set
hand
third?
activated one, the hawk.
Yeah, the third one by the bike path.
So it's more similar to the ones that are on D Street by the middle school.
Oh,
So it won't
okay.
be
Oh,
quite as aggressive as
okay.
the Hawk,
Mhm.
but it will have, it'll
Is
be
the
a
Hawk the
warning.
name of the system? Is that
Yeah.
what it?
That's it.
Yeah, it's an acronym
Oh,
that,
I was like, what?
it's a terrible acronym.
Comes down and flies.
so it won't be as large as the one on Mountain View and Third, correct?
Which is, I'm
Correct.
It'll be
envisioning the commuters on Mountain View who would grumble about the double whammy, but also the whole point is to keep pedestrians safe. So I don't
It's just
it-
a
that's-
warning for
right.
slowing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a
beautiful.
rapid flash beacon like you see at the middle school, yellow amber lights
Yeah.
flashing on the side,
Just an
just to
awareness.
notify motorists that there's a pedestrian crossing in
Groovy.
that location. It's not a stop controlled device like the Hawk is.
It's designed to promote compliance, not.
I was
enforce
surprised how
it.
well that works, though. I mean, I live near there. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work. And you know what? It works for me
It
every
does.
time.
Yeah,
But I think-
I'm not real clear oftentimes on when I should go. Then it doesn't say, okay, you're free.
No.
Do we have any other questions pertaining to this item?
The only question I had, and I think you alluded to it, that whole area does get flooded, and then even farther down, we have flooding issues. Are there anything we should watch out for where we may have to invest more money to help with that during this project, or does it seem pretty secure.
I can address that. Yeah.
I mean, that certainly is a potential. We're still conducting the flood hazard mitigation study. Consultants are currently, so they've gone through the process of survey, they've gone through computer model development, verification, and now they're to the stage of assessing mitigation measures to help reduce flooding in the area. This is a particular location that they are looking at to see if there are enhanced improvements. It's something that we potentially could incorporate as part of this project. It'd be at our full cost. The state's not going to fund the stormwater improvements,
Sure.
but it is something that by the time we get to design of this project, the flood hazard mitigation study will be complete. We'll have identified what improvements may be necessary, and then we can look at integrating them into this project when it gets constructed, or potentially in advance of the project, depending upon how they interrelate.
Okay.
So it's actually, this project is 6 years in the making, and it's kind of now paralleling to where we're working on some areas where, putting it to the ground now is actually good timing for other projects. So who would have known?
Weird. That's great.
It's nice how it all falls into place.
And my last question. So even with the narrowing, we're still able to maintain the bike lanes for the.
So we'd eliminate the narrowing
There's
with,
no narrowing.
to get the bike lanes. So that's the narrowing that is shown is projected without these grants based on the
Copy.
6th and Joseph
Copy.
project.
Okay.
And so what we would do, assuming that a successful award of this grant happens, is we
would
just
be able to-
eliminate it.
Okay.
And
So we would build our standard 34-foot wide arterial standard, the 12-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes on each side, then the curbing and tree lawn beyond that. Nate, do you recall, was there a left turn pocket as part of the Mountain View project at Joseph?
I can't recall.
Okay.
I believe there was, because that would support the wider cross section that is.
So that's
currently
probably
there.
why you're seeing the narrowing to some degree, is that there's a turn lane at that intersection being
slow.
constructed as part of the Mountain View. And so then once you get beyond the turn pocket, then the road can narrow down to the 34 feet, because you just have the travel lanes, bike lanes you need to accommodate.
Just also another amenity that comes along with this is we see more folks traveling through Heron's Hideout, taking from the ball fields, taking that shortcut and having the flashing light there to warn when they're coming up too will be a good feature, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it all looks good.
Yeah.
Both of these look awesome. So we're all in favor of approving that. So
And
we
we're
authorize that.
on consent agenda for both items.
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is request for support and financial participation for park improvements to Virgil Phillips Farm Park. David Schott, and it looks like Christina Mangiapane. Hello.
Hello.
David is working on a presentation
Let
here.
them work on
There you go.
technology.
It looks a little different on that side than what I've noticed lately.
Oh, lately.
Well, good afternoon. Again, I'm David Schott, the Parks and Facilities Manager with the City of Moscow. This afternoon, I've got Christine Mangiapane
There you go.
here this afternoon. She's a longtime Latah County resident living in Moscow for almost 20 years. She started as a part-time contract grant writer with Latah County in October of 2020, and now works there full-time on grants and other special projects, including coordinating American Rescue Plan Act funding and broadband planning. So she will be presenting this request for support and financial participation for park improvements to Virgil Phillips Farm Park through the Recreation Trails Program grant. With that, Christina, I'll let you take that home.
Thank you so much. See if I can do a single button. Hello. Thanks so much for having me and considering our request for matching funds for this recreational trails program application to make improvements at Phillips Farm Park. Aha. Wanted to start with some background on the grant for those of you who may not be familiar with it. The Recreational Trails Program is administered through the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation, and its main purpose is to fund projects that build, maintain, or improve recreation areas with significant trail systems. It's an annual grant cycle with an application deadline at the end of January each year. While there are no written restrictions on amounts you can request for funding, the advisory committee that reviews and ranks each application has historically funded projects under $100,000, which makes sense since there's $450,000 available each year for non-motorized trail projects, which is what this will be. Competitiveness of an application relies largely on the makeup of that year's pool of applicants, as well as advisory committee support. Meeting or exceeding the 20% match requirement is a big part of how the committee views applications, as well as how much of that 20% is made up of cash versus in-kind match. So these details contribute to our request today. Now I'll quickly move through a broad overview of the proposed project. The project really originated from the need to expand and improve parking at Phillips Farm, particularly the upper parking lot at the top of the hill, just as you turn off Highway 95. Paving about 12,000 square feet with asphalt was the original idea, but after consulting with Friends of Phillips Farm, who you all may know, a local nonprofit, and the grant application requirements to consider erosion and water flows, the project now consists of a permeable pavement concept that will aim to add 6 parking spaces. Installing additional signage and maps is probably the second largest aspect of the proposed project. The purple starbursts on this map represent the general locations of 20 small and 9 large new signs and maps, including a framed overlook map at the upper parking lot and many directional and educational signs along trails that provide ecological, historical, and geological information. The trail maintenance aspect of the project includes spot treatment of noxious weeds along the trails, which you can see here as tiny little colorful dots, barely see here as tiny little colorful dots. There's also a trail rerouting project presented here on the map in a pinkish purple, which is necessary due to a bit of washout. The first idea was to install a bridge, but then the reroute became the top choice since maintenance, liability, and lifespan of trail bridges were concerns. Finally, there are a few proposed amenity upgrades at the lower trailheads where the gazebo picnic areas live. If you recognize those 2 little hexagonal or octagonal, whatever they are. These locations aren't exact, but the boxes represent 2 animal-proof trash receptacles we're hoping to install, as Phillips Farm is located within black bear habitat. And the purple circle indicates the location of the pond improvement project, including a new safety ramp and viewing dock. As far as contributions go, Latah County has committed to $5,500 in cash match, as well as additional in-kind match for labor associated with completing many aspects of the project. Friends of Phillips Farm has committed $1,000 in cash match, as well as in-kind labor for rerouting a portion of the trail. And of course, we're hoping that the city of Moscow will commit to a $5,000 cash contribution, which would put us in a fairly good position for the amount and makeup of the 20% minimum match requirement for this grant. And that's about it. And I would love to answer questions if you have them.
Oh, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. You
Okay.
got there first.
So for the noxious weed treatment, I know that's sometimes, I know the city and county both, I think both city and county do some aspect of that within boundaries. Is any noxious weed stuff happening through Friends of Phillips Farm at the moment, or is this just furthering the purse to be able to do more control? Do we know?
The second part.
Great.
Friends of Phillips Farm has done an extraordinary vegetation management plan, and that was completed, I believe, in March.
Cool.
And so it's kind of part of that and trying to just tackle it little by little. For this particular grant, we can only do things that are along trails.
Gotcha.
So that's
Okay.
kind of why that is the way it is.
And then my second question, it's been a while since I've parked at the upper lot, but I remember that the goat trail down to the lower lot is a little bit sketchy. And so I don't know if that is, granted, I know I can probably just walk down the actual road and not use the goat trail, but I don't know if that's if there's room for that improvement. I know this grant has some additional guardrails on it, but I'm guessing that's on everyone's radar.
It is definitely on everyone's radar. I think that with Mamba, Moscow Area Mountain Biking Association, doing their little pump trail or whatever they want
Yeah.
to call it there,
Yeah.
they're going to be working with Friends of Phillips to
Very
figure
cool.
that out, because there's going to be a lot of access going down to that portion from the
Okay.
upper.
I do.
Sandra, go ahead.
I think I also have 2, and one is in conjunction with your weeding question. When looking at noxious weeds, are we looking at like manpowering those out of there or poisoning them out?
I think the plan for this one is spot treatment with
Chemicals. Something. Okay.
mhm.
Okay.
Although I would like to point out that the vegetation management plan is all about native plantings.
Right.
And there are plans for all of those kinds of things with the new trails that are being
Okay.
built and everything else. And we do actually have a letter of support from the Idaho Native Plant Society for
Oh,
this
that's good.
project.
Okay.
Good.
Then the other question to go along on my environmental kick, I guess today is, what's the environmental impact with that parking lot? I mean, what does that look like? Does that make sense?
Good question.
Do you have any,
Well, I mean, like, I don't know about your permeable asphalt. I don't know but I mean, what are the gases like? Is that bad for the area? Is excess going to be bad for things that just anytime you're changing ground makes you wonder what's happening to it? That's all.
Sure, yeah. Definitely part of the application, we have to address how far is this from water sources and
Mhm.
things like this. The feeling was, and we still, part of the application is to get the design and all of this, and so we'll learn more once that happens. But the idea is that the permeable aspect of the parking would sort of defer the water issues
Okay.
and let them drain more slowly. As far as any chemicals or anything like that, that would come from cars. I honestly is above my.
Sure. I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
But part of the issue, and one of the reasons why the next step in this, we couldn't apply to repair the road in this grant, but if anyone's been there, recently, the road's pretty bad. So we have to figure out, we wanted to establish some parking at the
Mhm.
top so the whole park would still be accessible, and then figure out how we're going to get that road
Okay.
fixed, and then do some improvements in the lower
No,
later on.
that's great. And that wasn't meant to be a grilling question because I like it up there. It just,
Yeah.
those things always make me a little squishy. So
Yeah.
Well, and we'll
I
get
hear
that
you.
Question. You showed a pond in the presentation. Is that part of this too?
The pond, how do you mean? Is it part of it? Yeah, there's
the pond's already there.
the pond's already
The
there.
pond is already there.
Yes. That was just to
Okay.
indicate where the pond was for improving the ramp and dock.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought we were establishing a pond.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I guess I don't have any other questions then if you guys are good.
Yeah. I mean, that
Okay.
sounds cool.
So
And I guess to David real quick, I'm sorry. I
No,
said
you're
yes and then I
okay.
jumped in.
You did, and then you have another question. It's okay.
We have the money for this in parks. Where's this?
Councilor Kelly, great question. We do have this in our Parks Capital Improvement. The $5,000 they're requesting for a $63,000 project. To me, as a parks person, these are valid parks improvements, and leveraging $5,000 of taxpayer dollars to get $63,000 of
Yeah.
improvements to a park that we own is a good deal,
Great.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thanks. No, I'm really done.
Are you sure? So then this can go on consent?
It certainly can, if the committee would like.
Consent's good for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. With our recommendation for approval.
Yes.
Okay, good job, kids.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next and
Don't jinx
last
us.
item is the Idaho Commission on the Arts Grant Applications, Public Programs in the Arts. Megan Cherry, good Lord, long title.
It's very complicated. It's going to be a very short presentation, however. This is a grant program that the Arts Department is part of every year. Just a little background on public programs in the arts. This is part of the Idaho Commission on the Arts suite of grant programs. It's one that we were transitioned into PPA after participating in entry track for several years. The difference with PPA is that it's much simpler application process. The final reporting is still extensive, but once the ICA kind of understands an organization's stability, we are moved into this this different grant program. The intent of the funding is to be general operating support.
Nice.
The grant awards are based upon the organization's annual budget. So they've got a way to calculate that. It does not require matching funds. This particular grant program. And based on last year's award, we're probably looking at about $6,000, but I'm not sure what the overall pot of money that they have available. So that's just best guess. We would receive an award letter in June of this year of 2022. And we've implemented a system of holding those funds back to the next fiscal year. Because the
That's
window
fair.
to use them is so short.
Mhm.
So that's just how we're navigating ICA grant funds at this point.
So we don't ask for a specific dollar amount. We put our name in the hat and
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very, the application itself is, I think I complete it in about 20 minutes. In fact, it's
Best
very
kind.
short.
Excellent.
And we provide our, annual arts
Oh, very cool.
department budget. And then they,
Very cool.
they basically assign us an amount.
Great.
Sweet. I think we ought to approve that. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so I think we'll do consent agenda with that one too.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any staff reports, sir?
There are no reports this afternoon.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Yes.
Awesome, we're out.